All right, so while the other video that I just did is loading, let's continue. And incidentally, you may hear some rattling going on. That's because currently there's a big windstorm outside. So we have a cold front or something moving through. So let's continue on this. And actually, I just realized looking at this. Okay, I need to do something first before we get to this part. So to do these variables, we want to actually create the class, and then we need to do a constructor within the class. So the constructor within the class is going to be where we just do the public user. Again, we'll just do this part, copy these, and put those into here. And then what we want to do is up here, you can do like what they're saying here, where we do a get and set. I'm actually thinking we'll just keep this simple. Let's just do a public int ID and public string username. So get this in here. And so let me save this really quick. Now, just to show you why I'm doing it this way. Okay. So we want to go ahead and return back to the form here. This is where we had our button that closes. I'm not going to save this here, but just to illustrate. So we can now create a user because we got the user class. And let's call it current user, and that's going to equal a new user. So we put this in here. Now we've got a current user. What does the structure we just create allow us to do is this. So we can put in current user.id, and we can say this is equal to 100, right? And the current user.username equals Peter. We are now able to use these, and actually this is in the middle of the exit. The exit when you double click up in there. So I'm going to do this, and I need this line too. So let's get that out of here and put this in here. And now we've got this where we've created a current user from what we've got here. And if we go to the design really quick, this is going to be temporary, but let's just throw a label onto here. And I like to abbreviate and just do like a welcome label, right? So the text right now says this. I'm going to delete the text, so it's actually starting off with nothing. And we come back here, and now we can say the label welcome.text equals hello, and then we're going to add the current user.username. So now when I save this and run, what you'll see happen is when this comes up, it says hello Peter. So this is the reason why we're building these classes. So we create it this way. There's other methods of creating a class, and I'm not going to go into all the different ways that you could do it. I'll use this for a shorthand for now because we just have these public. If you ever do work for a company, you'll have to follow their rules and regulations for how they've got their structures set up. So that's just something to bear in mind. But since we're just doing a quick and dirty code here, then I've got this set up here. Let's just leave the user as it is for a minute. Now we're going to need to do the same thing with these. So we're going to need a do public language, and then open and close brackets. We'll include this in there because this is where we're actually going to define it. And then up top, we'll do a public int of ID equals new int. Like we'll just declare it this way. Actually, I'm not even sure that I need that it equals anything. Like up here, we just had it set that way. So for consistency, I'm just going to keep it that way, like this, because we're going to declare it down here to actually give it the values that it needs. And let's do the same thing with the words. So we do public words. The IntelliSense didn't help me much on that one. Open, close, copy that, paste it to there, get rid of the extra line, come up here, and public int ID. Save that one too. And actually, I think I need lexicon still. Yep. And to do this part, you just do the same exact as what this class up here is. We're just repeating it down here with the empty brackets. I wish it wasn't trying to fill in for me. Paste that in. Do public int ID. Clean up a little bit of the extra white space. Okay. So this is the general idea of why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, but now that we're back, we can get rid of this stuff here for now because we don't need that. We get rid of this label. All of this stuff, come back over to here, and it looks like the label was already deleted off of that. So I think we're good to go. Let's just make sure that it's running fine, and it is. We can exit just like we could before. Okay, so we've got our user created. Now the big issue is going to be, how do we determine who the current user is? Now, as you saw over here, I can just manually type in that there's a current user up in this area and connect it over to a label or however you want to do that. But the reality is, when we do a program like this, we're going to want to load off of a saved piece of data. So basically, we're going to need to have a way to access and to save data. The easiest way to do that is to actually create two functions, one to load from a file and the other one to save to a file. And to get this to work correctly, we're going to come up to the top here, and at the very, very top, we're going to do using system.io. Because what I'm going to do with this is use the stream reader and stream writer. Those are part of the system.io. And so let's just come down here and make two functions. So the functions need to be public because we're going to take in data and return data. It's going to be a string that we will be returning, so we'll call it this, and we will go load data. It will need a string for a file name coming in, and then we're going to have another string within this for output, and we will return output at the very, very end. So this is what we're going to do. Now output doesn't have anything assigned to it yet, so this still will have an error message, but the other function is going to be public string read data, same format here, and we're going to do a string of output, and we will return output. And let's keep the cases the same. So just so you're aware, the output that is created here is different from the output that is created here. So these two variables can have the same name. That doesn't really matter. But the main difference is one of these is going to be a stream reader, the other is going to be a stream writer. So let's do the stream reader first. Stream reader is where we read the data, so that's where we're going to load the data. So we're going to need a stream reader, and we'll call it SR for short, and that's going to be a new stream reader. It will include this file name. And the file name does need to be formatted correctly. So I'll put that on here just to be safe. And in fact, one of the things we should do as I'm thinking about this here is, in case this isn't formatted correctly, we want to be able to catch this as an error. So let's put this into a try statement. And we'll put this part into it as well. Just want that part. And whenever there's a try, you need a catch. The catch is what happens when there is a failure. And actually, the catch itself, we're going to do as an exception. So this is going to give us the exception out. And just because I'm here and it's going to be super easy to do, we'll do this as a message box. We'll do show and the example message. And I think we want that. And then error. The error will be the title of the bar when it comes up, if I remember right. It could be reversed. It doesn't matter. This will notify us if there is an error. And that's the important part. So let me get rid of some of this space here. One other thing we're going to need. So in addition to the output, we'll also need a individual line. So the next thing that we'll do is we're going to make this line, and as it says here, we're going to read a line from the stream reader. So SR read line. Next, we'll need to do a loop. So while line, and we could actually do it with this, but I'm going to do the long version so that you can see it. So while line is not equal to null, that means there is contents available. Then what we want to do is pull that data in. And how do we pull the data in? Well, we're going to use the output variable, and we're going to increase it by the exact characters that are in line. So it'll be output equals output plus line. So all of this, let me clean up some more space here. All of this is what's going to be returned. But we're not quite finished here, because once we're done with this loop, as you can see here, we still need to close the file. If we don't close it, then you can run into problems with files being open forever, things like that. So we don't want to run into issues with that. And let's see on here. We do have an error that it's showing on here, but it could be related to something with this down here. Let's see, so it does have an unassigned variable. I guess what we want to do is put up here, let's just start it off as, actually we want to do null. Let's do it this way. And just in case, we'll start this as a null as well. So we'll create it with nothing, and then we're going to add it as it comes through in here. So this will then return the output. Now this will work for any file name that we send this way. So let's go ahead and get back to this part, which is the way that we read data. Or, and actually I just realized reading data is the same thing as loading data. This is how we want to write the data. So let me change that there. We haven't used it yet, so it's okay to change things. And it also will help if I spell things correctly on this part. So the string output, we're going to, again, go ahead and just call it null to begin with. And in this case, the elements that we need aren't just the file name. We're also going to need a string of contents. So we'll pass in the contents that we're uploading to the file itself. Now, once again, we want to go ahead and try what we're going to do. And that means we'll need a catch down here. And the catch will include the exception. And we're calling it EX. And actually, I don't know why it was capitalized there, but we'll call it this way, exception EX. And once again, we can just copy this exact same message box here. Paste that down there. That's easy to recycle that code. So in this case, instead of stream reader, we do stream writer. And we'll do SW for stream writer equals a new stream writer. And it again will be the file name. Remember, file name must be formatted correctly. And I will get into details of that in a second. So in this case, what we're going to do, instead of reading in one line at a time, we're going to print the contents out. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass in all the contents at once. It's going to basically be a single line that we're writing, but you can include the return character line within the data that we're putting. So once we get to this point, then we just do SW, and instead of reading a line, we write the line. And the line that we're going to write is going to be this contents. And then once we're done with that, we've written the line in. We can write more lines, whatever we need to do, but in the end, we're going to close this. Now we might need to finagle this a little bit as we move forward. Delete the correct spot, because the string that we send in, the contents, might need to be more than one thing. But for now, this is sufficient to actually be able to save something to a file. So with this all done in here, we now have these two functions available to use to save and load data. And actually, I do kind of like save data as a better name for this even than load data. So then write data. We're going to have load data and we're going to have save data. That's going to be what we'll call these two functions. So I'll save my changes right now. Now the question is, what use is this? And also, how do we need to format the file name to have it save correctly? Well, first, let's go up to the very top here because we want to create a global variable. one that will work everywhere that we've got this. And that is going to be a string that we will call base path. And this is going to be a new string, and it's going to be of type system.appDomain. And then you can see it filling in the rest here, the current domain.base directory. What this will do, helps if I hit the right key, what this will do is it will give us the base directory of where this program is running. Now to actually call this, to get the file name itself, we have to come down to wherever we're going to call. Right now, we can just do it in the main one. And let me put a note on here because with as many functions as we've got, it can get a little confusing. This is the main function right here. So what we can do here is we can create a file name that is within this area here, and we'll just call this string file name, or actually let's do this specifically for the data that we're going to use for the username. So let's do string username, or we'll say user file equals, and it's going to start with the base path, right? So we're going to start with the base path, but the base path itself is not a full file name. It's just the directory to where we're going to go with. And that means that we can then create either a file, or we can create a directory at this location, or anything we want to do. What I'm thinking of doing is let's go ahead and take user file, and we're going to equal user file itself plus we're going to add on the name of a file, and we'll just call this users.dat. That's just going to be a data file. You can call it pretty much whatever you want. It's going to save and open these as text files either way. You can use other methods to open them as binary and things like that, but we don't need to do that. We're just doing text files here. So now we have a user file with the user data, but there's no actual file there to work with yet. It doesn't exist. And if it did exist, there wouldn't be any data in it at this point either. So the first thing we're going to need to do is create a user to save into that file. So temporarily, we can just do a let's do a user of current user is going to be a new user, right? So this is what we did before, and we're going to say the current user.id is equal to 0, and current user.username is, you're going to put whatever name you want. I'm going to put Peter. See, sometimes I can even spell my own name correctly. Now, we're going to create the file. It doesn't yet exist. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call the save data, and we're going to give it the user file for the file name, and the content is going to be the current user.username. So this is how we're going to pass that into the file. So let's just run this and see if there's any errors that happen. When it comes up, no errors popped up. There was no error message, so we can exit out of here. Now, did this actually work? Well, we can go up to the open file, and you can see it's in this area, and there's no data file there. But that's because the data file is stored here. We're on the debug side, and it comes down to users.dat here. If we open this, you can see there it is. So it created this file for us. So the save function definitely did work. That means that we need to test out the read function now. Does the read stream reader work? Well, how are we going to read back this data? Okay, and I was working on getting the read data back, and I realized there is actually a bug on here. So when you look at the stream reader here, it goes for this line when the line is not null. It adds that to the output. The problem is that we forgot to read the line again. After this, we need to do the read line a second time. That way it will continue through. Now when we save this, we can come back down here. And this is actually really easy to do. So we can, let me use the right slashes. We will comment out both of these fields because we don't need to save the data again. The data was already saved. But what we do need to do is have the current user.username set equal to load data, and then we're going to load the user file again. And then what we'll want to do, correct the typos. Let's have just a message box, and we'll have it show the contents is going to be the current user dot username, and we'll just say here was what was loaded. Right, so we save that, now we run it, and this is what we get. Here is what was loaded, and it's the Peter label. So we hit OK on that, and then the rest of the program comes up. So as you can see, this is a way for us to save and load data at will now. And we will be using that in our next few items. With that, I'm going to end the video for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.